Welcome to Nittany Sports Now's post-game show from the playing service at Beaver Stadium. Joe Smeltzer and Kyle Golik, both from Nittany Sports Now. And Kyle, the number one thing I think we both wanted to see coming into this game against Villanova was a return to dominance. You know, last week against FIU, yeah, the final score was 34-0, but it was 20-0 until the last few minutes of the game. The first team had to play most of the way. It really was not a satisfying effort. And I'm not saying that this was, but at the end of the day, 52-6, one tight end, return tight end gets his first career touchdown reception, Jared Shaw, for another true freshman defensive back at 26. That's a sign of empty bench. That's what Penn State was able to do. And there were still some recurring issues, especially offensively, that we'll get to. But overall, I think you have to be feeling better about this game. Maybe not a ton better, but better about this performance than the other.
I feel 100 times better about this performance, Joe, than really the Nevada or FIU performance. Again, lower competition since Villanova is an FCS school here. Things that I like today, Joe, is it seemed Drew was airing it out more today. And think about it like this, guys. 15 yards per completion is considered elite. Drew is hovering about 12.3, 12.5 today. Okay? When you look across the nation, Dante Moore, who's getting a lot of stuff from Oregon, only had about 11.8 today against Northwestern. So there was a lot there. If you think about this, Joe, if either Drew connects with, I think it was Devontae Ross or Kyron Hudson on those deep bombs that he took shots with.
Possible missed pass interference on, I think, at least one of those two.
I agree. He's at about 15 yards per completion. So there's a lot to like there. The run game, I think, was fantastic today. The one thing that I didn't like was James kind of played it off post-game, was the disparity at one point between the touches Nick Singleton had versus Katron Allen. My take on it, if you looked at Drew's first interception this season, there were so many missed assignments that James alluded to. He wouldn't get into the specifics, but Katron Allen was in the vicinity, Joe. And to me, I think he had to go to the doghouse. So that's my conspiracy theory on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, looking at the stats, Katron had, I think, 2 more yards on 10 fewer carries than Singleton. And he's been Penn State's number one guy, at least in pure running the ball right now. We can talk about Singleton's abilities as a receiver in a separate discussion. But, yeah, I don't know if it was a doghouse thing with Katron. I think it's possible. James Franklin has not confirmed any of this, but with what Franklin talked about in his Monday presser with Singleton admittedly overthinking things and having to talk to Singleton about that after the Nevada game, and with what Singleton kind of touched on that overthinking too, him telling us in the player postgame stuff that basically, yeah, that's been an issue for me. That's, I think, getting his confidence back up and getting him right, quote unquote, that was probably the priority, and I think that's probably the reason that the disparity of touches.
Like I said, just from my ears, it could be a slew of things. We both may be wrong on it. But the one thing that I did not like from Singleton today, and it was on one of Ryan Martin field goals. They were in Villanova territory, and there was 2 lanes for Singleton. He had a lane on the inside of a blocking assignment. I think it was either Ross or Hudson blocking on the perimeter, and he had the boundary. He quickly on his decision went inside and was stuck because he didn't see the linebacker shooting across who was stretching the field. So, it's one of those things that's going to go, that Stan Drayton's going to go over in film this week. But again, I'm waiting to see that 2022 Nick Singleton that used his speed to blow past SEC defenders at Auburn. Let's be honest here, Joe. The caliber of athlete in Villanova is nowhere near to some of the teams I've seen Nick Singleton blow past. So that's what I'm waiting for out of him.
Yeah, I think we take end of 2024 Nick Singleton too.
Yeah, I mean the Boise State closer is definitely signature, and like I said, I will take Boise State over Villanova in that.
Yeah, and I'll have one last thought on the offense before moving on to the defense. Singleton is a guy that traditionally has performed very well late in the season. I think 2022, obviously, the famous run at the Rose Bowl last game of the year, big run at the Fiesta Bowl last year, last game of the year had Penn State beat Notre Dame, that would have gone down as one of the better games in Penn State history offensively with 3 touchdowns against the Fighting Irish. So, yeah, this guy's a pro. He's a veteran. I think he's going to be just fine. But we got to talk about the defense because it came within one play of doing something no Penn State defense had done in almost 30 years now. Was pitched back-to-back shutouts. Shut out FIU last week, almost shut out Villanova. There was a crazy play at the end where Villanova got those 6 points. We're looking a lot on the LED board right now. But yeah, it's hard to say too much, Kyle, about the defense because they've been awesome against Nevada and FIU, and we talked about that in our first game shows. But I want to focus on 2 guys, Tony Rojas and Amari Campbell. It really feels like that's a dynamic duo at the linebacker position, especially Amari Campbell. I think he ended the day with 5 tackles, 3 of them were TFLs, all of them were solo. Maybe it was 7 tackles, all solo, 3 of them tackles for loss. He's been, I think, everything you could ask for as Penn State's guy as Mike linebacker.
He's blossoming, and one of the things I talked to Amari about postgame, and you can catch my conversation with Amari when we upload it here later, and there'll be a column this week on Amari Campbell's transition from North Carolina here to Penn State. He's really comfortable with Jim Knowles' system. He's really comfortable with the chemistry with him, DeLuca, and Rojas. They're flourishing. These guys are being very smart, Joe. They're able to deduce whether to stay in coverage, not abandon the back or tight end that might be in the vicinity, and they know when to pursue the quarterback, which led them to 3 sacks today.
Yeah, well, we're getting ready to wrap this up, going into the bye week, and then, of course, Mighty Oregon comes to Beaver Stadium September 27th, 7:30 p.m. NBC whiteout. Oregon's number 4 right now, might be up to number 3 by that point, who knows, but we'll leave you with our 2 main takeaways. I would say, my biggest takeaway is I can't believe I've gone all this time without mentioning it. It's not taking advantage fully of short fields and not taking advantage of driving into the red zone. We saw multiple occasions today where Penn State either put a great drive together and it stalled within the 10-yard line, or it got the ball within near the red zone, within the Villanova 30-yard line, and couldn't score a touchdown. It's been an issue in all 3 games this season, and that's something that has hurt Penn State in big games before. Ohio State last year hit, and could well hurt them again this year if it doesn't get cleaned up. So not to end on a negative note, but that's something I feel like I had to touch on because it's been a recurring issue.
So we're flipping roles, or usually I'm the negative Nancy, he's very optimistic. So I'm going to be positive for you guys. This team is maybe a half a step away from really showing dominance. Here are some indicators that I have. So Nick Singleton, for the 10th consecutive game, now only Saquon Barkley's had a longer streak with rushing consecutive touchdowns by a non-quarterback. Nick hit 10 today, Saquon was 15. He is maybe 1 or 2 things away from getting fixed. I think Katron is working real well for him. With Aller, I think what's causing Penn State from really being more efficient is a combination of, I don't think Aller's allowed to scramble. I mean, you could literally see on the 1 scramble for the first down.
Yeah, I'm grimacing thinking of that. If
think
it's
about
the
it.
one you're talking
yeah,
about. Yeah.
Think about that you can see that. You can also see that he's trying to get throws in there. And remember, James said today, Villanova dropped 8 all day. So your windows are a lot smaller to get him into, and keep this in mind. He's maybe 1 or 2 throws away from having elite production. My last takeaway on this, Joe, I really think Penn State found their heir apparent to Tyler Warren, and that is Luke Reynolds. He caught 4 or 5 today, 73 yards. It's only a matter of time before they start dabbling with Luke in the red zone. But Rappleyea had a great day. Schaffler, I think, got his first touchdown.
Yep.
And, it makes you wonder, Khalil Dinkins is an amazing blocker, but where does he fit now on the fold as you're starting to see a lot of production come from a lot of other guys?
They're going to find out a lot more about this team 2 weeks from now, but until then, follow myself on Twitter at Smeltzer775. Follow Kyle on Twitter. I always forget your Twitter.
You're good, Joe. It's at Kyle Golik